Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Track Stars Racing Series YouTube channel. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to Track Stars Racing Series. Follow us on all socials, on Facebook, Instagram, and even join our Discord where you can find all of the racing action here on the platform Gran Turismo 7 on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. If you've got a PC, you can even join us in the iRacing world. Just search Track Stars Racing Series and you can join us for all the action on iRacing. But here we are on Gran Turismo 7 for Track Stars Formula 2 for round 9 here at the German Grand Prix. The F3 boys have packed up their equipment. We've seen Purton celebrating his overall round victory for what was an incredible finish towards the end of the Grand Prix. A lot of talking points to go through here tonight in the Track Stars Formula 2, where we'll cap off from what was the last round at Spa-Francorchamps for the Belgian Grand Prix, where we had Ryan Palmer, my fellow co-commentator, and Track Stars Formula 3 join now back on the grid tonight, swapping his commentator's suit for his race suits. Palmer is coming through. He took out the victory. Had a brilliant performance in that race overall. A great car setup that he managed to produce, making that car really fly through that second sector in Spa-Francorchamps. And if you know any driver that can get a car that can work both in sector 1, 2, and 3 to get yourself a really good lap, it was the man Ryan Palmer that took out the line honours. And then we also had Chris Burke from RoboSport Racing. This is where it gets very, very controversial, ladies and gentlemen. In second place was meant to be Mitch Curry from RoboSports Racing, the championship leader, but on the final lap, he managed to get himself an unfortunate and grueling DC disconnect from the lobby on with only one sector to go, ladies and gentlemen. So that's the most cruelest thing that can happen to anybody in the sim racing world, getting a DC on the final lap and with only one sector to go. It's very harsh on a man that's been so far dominating this entire series here at Track Stars Formula 2. But with that, unfortunately, he gets himself a very low 100 points to conclude his evening. So it's a bit of a damper compared to what he has been having throughout the whole Track Stars Formula 2 campaign. 5 wins out of 8 races. It's an incredible feat that he's been showing here at Track Stars Formula 2's 5 victories. It's incredible pace that he's been able to show and really say to the guys ahead of him, just like, you guys got some work to do, because I'm the man with these cars, and I'm always the man that'll be able to bring something extra to the dinner table. And but unfortunately for him, bit of a DC, bit of a DNF there, so a lonely race for him. And then we also had KH Lamb, HBR 82, taking third and the final podium after what was the misfortune of getting the DC from Curry, turned into a bright spark for Lamb to getting his first podium in Track Stars Formula 2. Then we had the returning Crestdale in Xylon 96, who was absent throughout the entire Formula 2 championship in 2023, and made his return to the Track Stars Racing Series scene and getting himself a very strong P4 at the end of that race. And then we had Rudd get himself up into 5th place, and that's his first top 5, ladies and gentlemen. He's actually now been able to get his main series eligibility along with the likes of Lamb and Guider from WTC Racing, getting his credentials up on his resume to being a main series eligible driver. So keep an eye on him on the market, ladies and gentlemen. He'll be a hot snap if anyone's going to be getting him up. And then we had Lansdale in P6. We had Guider in 7th, Severi from CP Motorsports in 8th, Doc from WRT in 9th, and then Balding in 10th place, and the debutant in T-Mac finishing outside the top 10 in car 42 with 206 points. And then, of course, we had the DNF from Curry and Dalitz from It's Racing Esports. Aussie Taylor, unfortunately, was a non-starter. Did qualify, but unfortunately couldn't get himself into the lobby and retired the car nice and early. But the biggest talking point at the end of that round is car 7, Mr. Ward, race pig from Robo Sports Racing, getting himself a disqualification from the points scoring in round 8 at Spa-Francorchamps after what was a monumental incident at turn 1, lap 1 of Spa-Francorchamps, coming from the back of the field. He already did it tough, unfortunately. He got himself from the back of the field and had a lot of work to do. And unfortunately for him, just missed a braking marker. At least fortunate for him, he owned up to it, which was fantastic. And unfortunately, on his side of the things, he took out, I believe, was about 4 cars at the end of it, at the end of turn 1 on lap 1. So very unfortunate for the drivers that unfortunately got collected by Ward. So the stewards have been fairly harsh, or have been harsh to demote or to disqualify Ward from the racing points at Spa, which gave him a big fat 0, unfortunately. And with the ruling at Track Stars Racing Series, disqualification does mean you do not use that as your drop round. So even though he would get 0 points, it won't count to a drop round, because at the end of this round, we will have one more round to go for the French Grand Prix at Saint-Croix. And yeah, unfortunately for him, he won't be able to use that 0 points a round. He'll have to use another point scoring finish that he had earlier in the season from the previous 7 rounds. But we are live here at the Nürburgring, this 5.1 kilometer circuit, where we've got all of our F2 drivers ready to go. We've got 1 more minute until qualifying gets underway. We are missing 1 driver from the attendance list, so hopefully you might be able to join us just before qualifying kicks off or during the qualifying session. But for those joining me in the YouTube, thank you so much for tuning in. Please let me know where you're watching the stream, who you're supporting, who your money is on to take victory in this 19 laps, who your Monopoly money is going to be on for taking out pole position at the start of the German Grand Prix. As we're about to hit 8 o'clock on the dot, we'll come back all to the live action very shortly, where we'll be getting qualifying underway. So stay tuned. Make sure you grab some food, grab a drink, sit back, relax, give the missus, give the family a hug, and sit back and make sure you're all rugged up in this late autumn coming to early winter season. Got to rug up because it's going to be very, very chilly here in the country of Australia. But luckily for our boys that are in Germany, they're enjoying the blitz and glamorous sunshine. Nice hot weather. The track is rubbered in from our Formula 3 boys. So let's wait and see what our Formula 2 boys can do, as qualifying will get underway very shortly. So for the second last time, ladies and gentlemen, it is about to happen. The second last qualifying in Track Stars Formula 2. The qualifying that it all matters to the drivers, that is in the pointy end of this championship. We have Curry in car 43 leading this championship. He's been, as I've been saying earlier in the coverage, been absolutely dominating the entire series in Track Stars Formula 2 with 2,074 points. Right behind him is his teammate in Burke, which was actually at the points. It was Ward, but with that disqualification, that's dropped him all the way down to 4th place, unfortunately for Ward's end. So Burke occupies P2. Lansdale in car 888 is in 3rd place. And right behind them is Lamb in 5th on 1,770. Then Palmer is on 1,758, and then Rudd 1,712, followed closely behind by Severi on 1,702. So very close points in this early phase of, in this late phase of the Track Stars Formula 2 Championship. But that won't mean a thing anymore, ladies and gentlemen, because at the end of this round, we'll be taking everyone's worst round as their drop round. Subtract that away from their overall total, and then come the French Grand Prix at Saint Croix and the bean layout, we'll be able to determine who is where going into that final race. Will Curry be able to string up yet another victory tonight to really put one hand on the trophy and hopefully potentially lift it up at the end of the season? We will find out shortly, but qualifying is underway. Let's go to the first driver that's coming through to turn one. It is my fellow co-commentator in Palmer in position 1, currently leading the pack of 15 drivers, or 14 drivers rather, in qualifying. Car 16 taking a dominant victory at Spa-Francorchamps last time out. Will be looking to make sure he gets himself right up the pointy end once again. So coming through, instead of 30.7 as the first sector. We don't know if that's good or bad, but we'll find out as all the drivers complete their first lap. As we can see there on the track map as well, is very well spread out, and the wind direction is going very different to what we saw in Track Stars Formula 3. So we've had a bit of a different change in the breeze. It's going from right to left on this time round. So if you're looking at onto the pit straight, so it's going to be very interesting. A bit of a cross breeze going into turn one, so it might help. So it might plague some drivers going into turn one with that little bit of instability. We saw a lot of instability through the back section here, where Palmer is coming across right now, with drivers really not anticipating that chicane, taking too much and making the cars fly. But the cars are very low to the ground. You want to take as much curving as you can, but not too much at the point the front end of the car lifts the nose, and then you're just a bit of a sitting passenger. As Ryan just runs a little bit too much heavy throttle and puts it onto the gravel trap and nearly spins it. So unfortunately, that's his lap done. Rudzi so far currently with a 1 minute 37.5 as his first lap. Then we have Lamb coming through with a 1 minute 37.4. Ward with a 1 minute 35.4. So that's a solid lap there for the man that is looking for redemption in car 7 for RoboSport Racing. Really, in a way, not out of the champion picture just yet. He's got everything to do tonight to try and get himself up back to the front and try and be an authority figure in Track Stars Formula 2 ahead of his teammate in both Curry and Burke. As we talk about the man Curry, he's now set himself a 1 minute 35.8, so he's 0.4 behind Ward, sitting in currently pole position. We have Lansdell in 5th place, not setting the best laps so far, but as drivers are coming through to complete and finish their laps, we have what is Guido in position 7, and we have a few other drivers crossing the line right now. We have Doc from WRT currently sitting in position 5. Here we have Lashbrook in car 11, unfortunately picking up a 1 second penalty there, so that's not going to be helping his cause whatsoever. So he obviously hasn't set a lap time, so maybe his previous lap, considering that he has a 1 second penalty, didn't count. But he did set a 1 minute 37.5, which I don't think would have even put him inside the top 5, I believe. Actually, yeah, no, wouldn't put him inside the top 5. So we'll wait and see what he can do, as he's only got about half the session to go. But we're seeing some lap times coming through again. We have Palmer setting his first provisional lap, but he did get compromised as he got caught into the gravel trap early on. We have a returning figure in Hosking for car 51 from WRT, joining his teammate in Doc in car 100. So it's great to see the man in Xavier Hosking joining us in car 51. Sporting the famous number once driven by the legendary Greg Murphy, and now he's got it on his WRT. He gets very squirrely and very tailor happy, getting under the dirty air and the rear wing from Severi. But Hosking is just going to struggle a little bit to get a decent lap in. He did improve, but not by much. So he's got a lot of work to do. 10.1 seconds behind Curry, who actually just then did get the jump over his teammate in Ward, but with Ward now picking up a half second penalty, he's going to have to find a bit of a gap, because he's only got less than 4 minutes to go to try and string in a potential good lap. And I can see behind him his teammate as well, and Burke has picked up a half second as well. So the two boys from Robo Sport Racing both picking up half second penalties simultaneously, probably in around the same corner, both really compromising themselves to get them a good lap, especially Burke's currently sitting in 14th. See the lap times coming through on the left-hand side. We see Rudzi has actually climbed up into 5th place with an improvement on his lap, but we did see Palmer actually come through with a 1 minute 35.8, so that's a much better representative lap time from the round 8 victor, but he's still 0.7 behind his fellow teammate in iRacing in the Toyota GR86 series in Curry, who's starting provisional pole position and is 0.4 behind Ward in position 2. And now we have Lashbrook coming up the order as well, so he's also strung in a good lap time at 1 minute 36.7, 1.6 behind Curry. So the lap times are coming in. They are coming in slow, but they are coming in thick and fast as the track is very well spread out. So definitely not like the last time at Spa Functionals where the lap was so long we had to wait for a driver to come through and complete their lap. But because the track is a little bit shorter compared to length distance between here and Spa, is you actually get to see drivers come through and actually set lap times in succession. And the next time out we'll see the Formula 2 boys will be at Saint Croix. So again, very similar style layout and distance, I'd say. Crestdale sitting in P7 after making his return to Track Stars Formula 2 in car 23 for Mash Spuds Racing. Doing himself a good job there to put himself in a position where he's been always up the front end, the pointy end in any series that he's been running with us at Track Stars Racing Series. But he's back better than ever in car 23, getting P4 at the end of the Spa round. So he's had more lap times coming through. We did see Lashbrook improve his lap time, 1 minute 36.3. Then we have Lansdale in position 6 on his first representative lap time with a 1 minute 37 flat. So not the lap time that he wants to be getting anywhere near his rivals in Palmer. And Burke is down here in position 8 at the moment, at 1 minute 38.7. Severius just come across the line, improved his lap with a 1 minute 39.3, goes a little bit deep there into turn 1, but he's managed to keep it steady. We have Hosking now coming through, setting his first representative lap time with a 1 minute 38.9, so 3.7 behind Curry. And the man that almost certainly was very close to taking out a race victory at Fuji for the Pacific Grand Prix, unfortunately just got caught up in a fair few incidents towards the back end of the stint of the race and only finished, and unfortunately for him, finished P2 at the end of it all, but he's up on his personal best by 0.4 of a second, so we'll keep an eye on his times as he crosses the line very shortly. We did see Crestdale improve his lap 1 minute 38.2. Still not enough there. The top 3 are still relatively close to each other, but they're putting themselves some good gaps between the rest of the other drivers. We do have Lashbrook 1.1 behind Curry, and he's trying to benefit from a tow from his teammates, and he's actually managed to improve his time slightly, just by a little bit, and he actually got the jump over Chris. I think Chris actually got himself a really good lap time on the last lap, as it is the end of the session, with Burke finishing up in 5th, and then Lashbrook came flying on that final lap to get that P4 back. But as we look back towards the front, Curry is about to cross the line for his final lap here. Curry is very well known to be putting on last lap momentums, and he spun the car. Oh, that's very unfortunate, but because he's usually a last lap wonder is Mitch Curry. But unfortunately for him, that is the end of his session, not able to improve on his lap time. But it looks to be a pole position yet again for car 43 for Robo Sport Racing, taking out pole position as as we see a few drivers are coming across the line. I don't think that'd be anywhere representing anywhere competitive times. We have Crestdale with a 1:37 on that last lap, but not inside the top 8. So we have Curry, we have Ward, RoboSport 1-2, car 43 versus car 7. So a much better performance by Ward compared to the last time out. He was going to look for redemption to try and snatch his first victory in Track Stars Formula 2. Then we have Palmer in 3rd place, Lashbrook in 4th with a brilliant drive, with a brilliant lap with a 1:36.2, just over a second behind Curry's. But that's a really representative time there by Lashbrook to be just over a second behind the pole man. So well done to Lashbrook. Then we have Burke inside the top 5. So 3 Robo Sports cars inside the top 5, proving the dominance that both RoboSport Racing have been putting on in Track Stars Formula 2 is really etching themselves as a very worthy contenders of getting themselves both a championship victory here in the Formula 2, as well as getting their other drivers in Ward and Burke inside that top 5 in the championship. But hopefully for Robbo and Craig Harcourt's case, they'll be both looking for their boys to be inside that top 3 at the end of the season. But rounding up through the rest of the grid, we have Lamb in P7. Lansdale, unfortunately, not able to get a clean lap in, 1.9 behind Curry in P7. Rudsey in 8th place. Then we have Crestdale in 9th on that last lap. And then we have Hosking in position 10, rounding up the top 10 in his 51 WRT Motorsport. And then we have Severi outside the top 10 in 11th. Then we have Balding in 12th, Doc in 13th. And unfortunately, Guida sitting in 14th in last place, 5.6 behind. So a very late entrant was Guida. So he'll be looking to pull off one of his masterful strategies in getting himself a really good car position to get himself up to the front. But it is the time for the race start here, ladies and gentlemen. 19 laps around this 5.1 kilometre circuit. That is the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit layout. Curry on pole, his teammate in Ward in 2nd place. Watch out for Palmer right behind. He'll be looking to make some early moves on his competitors. But as the lights are about to go red, the lights are on. We have 5 red lights here for round 9 of the Formula 2 Track Stars Racing Series. And we are underway. Ward's got himself a really good jump there on the inside. We'll wait and see if he can actually make the move. Ryan Palmer's actually made a brilliant start there. Ward goes into the lead. He pushes Curry a bit wide. They're going to go 3 wide through Mercedes-Benz Arena. They've just sorted themselves out. Ward is going to start to look for inside moves on Curry. But Ward's actually held on to P2. As we look down through the rest of the field, we're seeing some drivers and moves to check as we see Burke sitting in P4 making a position on Lashbrook. And then we have Siri coming from out of nowhere in P7 already, just out from starting from P10. A really great job there. Lansdale's dropped down to P9. Crestdale in 9th. Rudsey in 10th. Severi, Balding, Guida and Doc in 14th place, but back up towards the front as we're coming through Dunlop Curve for the first time. The fans are roaring of the approval of Formula 2 racing here. Curry leading the way after almost losing the lead to Ward at the end of turn 1. Ward is holding on to P2 and Palmer in 3rd place. Really etching themselves a good gap over Burke in 4th place. He's 1.2 behind Palmer, 2.1 behind Curry. So Burke's got a bit of work to do to try and close the gap because those top 3 boys are running away. Palmer's going to look for an inside move through the chicane. No, he doesn't. He's going to stick back behind Ward in position 2. But the boys are very close. Less than a second separates the top 3. This could be some very close racing here, ladies and gentlemen. And we're not even at the end of the first lap, but we are now as we see Curry go ultra defensive into the inside line. Ward using his overtake to try and get past him. He might be able to make the move here, going around the outside of turn 1. Will he be able to hold it around the outside? He does. Makes a brilliant move there around the outside. Great job by Ward, taking the lead away from Curry. And Ward leads the Grand Prix for the first time in round 9 at the German Grand Prix. Has put himself a great margin, a very handy margin, roughly 1.2 clear of Curry in 2nd place. Palmer's now going to be looking into the back end of that rear diffuser from Curry in Sec 4, P2. And look at that, he's stretched the margin already 1.2, and as we've just crossed it, as we're about to cross the second sector here, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a huge advantage there. We saw Ward was very aggressive at the beginning of the race. That's his natural style of racing. He shows his aggression at the beginning of the race, and now Curry's all sorts of under pressure for Palmer. Palmer's going to make the move going into Sector 3, and he's done it very cleanly there. So Curry is struggling on lap 2 of 19, so maybe running a different strategy compared to the boys up front. But as well, Burke has closed that gap a fair bit now, and he's actually closing up to Curry. So Curry could lose another position at the end of lap 2. Find out in due time, but Lashbrook still not letting go of these guys. He's sitting in 5th place. So it's great confidence for Lashbrook to get himself into the top 5. It could be his first top 5, but it's not over yet. We've got a long way to go here, ladies and gentlemen. We're only about 17 laps to go until the end of this session. We have got Palmer going defensive on Curry. Curry making a comeback. Oh, Curry almost taking out the rear wing of Palmer as it's racing car 16, Dallara SF19. Took good accordance of good spatial awareness rather to not take out the rear wing of Palmer's entry, but Ward ahead. He's pulling out 3 seconds already, almost 3 seconds. He's with a 1 minute 35.8 as his first lap. That's incredible opening stint pace for Ward. Really good pace there from car 7. As we look down through the rest of the grid, we have Hosking down in position 7, so from 10th to 7th, so a very good start by the man in car 51. Lansdale's right behind his rear diffuser in position 8, sucking up all the dirty air as we go on board with the man in car 888, who's currently P3 in the championship, is now stuck behind Hosking, and it's just sucking in all of that dirty air from car 51. So let's see how his car behaves through turns 11 and 12 through Kumo and Bit Curve. Yeah, he's very hesitant on the throttle there, but he's able just to close up a little bit on Hosking and might be able to make a move on him pretty soon as he goes through to the chicane here. Let's see how much he can close the gap, how much curbs he can use. Looks like Hosking's used a fair amount of curbs there. It's actually worked to his advantage there. So Hosking's done a very good job on the curvings there. But as we look down, we have Rudd in 9th, Crestdale inside the top 10, Severi, Balding, Guider and Doc rounding up the rear of the field. So they're more or less the same orders that we've had. Severi's actually broken away from Balding. He's actually closing up on Crestdale. So we'll wait and see what his progress is like before the start of the pit window. But back up at the front, we've got Ward in position 1, car 7 leading the way on lap 4 of 19, setting yet another fastest lap of 1 minute 35.3. The man is on fire so far. Lap 4 of 19, going ultra aggressive and putting in fastest laps, qualifying laps here for Ward. Really wants to insert himself a really strong lead before the pit window. We'll find out on lap 5, at the end of lap 5, what tyre everyone is on, because all drivers have to complete 1 compulsory pit stop in getting at least 5 laps on each compound, both racing softs and racing mediums. Lost a little bit of ground there, 0.8 down, so something maybe he hasn't used a lot of his overtake throughout this stint. As we look down the order, we've got Palmer still holding off Curry in position 2. Curry's actually found a little bit more confidence now, so he's struggled a lot in that opening couple of laps, but he's now finding his feet a little bit more in car 43, and he's looking to try and get himself back up towards the front and ahead of his teammate, his iRacing teammate in Palmer. We have Burke right behind in position 4, and Lashbrook is not letting him go, so Lashbrook's doing a fantastic job in car 11, right on the rear gearbox of car 486. The man in position 2, Lashbrook, hasn't even been a contender in this championship so far, but he's showing the boys up ahead. He's saying, I'm here to play, I'm here to show my pace, and what a way to do it if he can get himself inside the top 5 and even potentially onto the podium if one of the front 3 makes mistakes. Because look at that, between Palmer and Lashbrook, I'll look through it quickly, see if I can do my quick maths here. roughly about just over 2.5 seconds between Palmer and Lashbrook, between second and fifth, but they're all in the same they're all in the same picture frame, as we can see right there. Lashbrook can see Palmer in the distance. It'll be very interesting to see what tyres these guys on as we're about to conclude lap 5 of 19. To those joining us in the YouTube chat, thank you so much for tuning in to Track Stars Racing Series Formula 2, as we've got the team boss, or the co-team boss of Robbo Sport Racing, showing his support towards Curry, Ward, Burke, and even his good mate in Balding in Robbo Sport Racing. As we see Curry, looks like in the foreground there, looks like he made a bit of a mistake on the exit of Coca-Cola. Too much throttle application. As we look through, we see Lansdale, as we're about to reveal to all of our viewers what tyre everyone's on as we go through the order. We have, of course, no surprise there. Whoa, Ward runs super wide there. I will be surprised if he doesn't pick up a penalty there. He hasn't, so that was a very wide line there by Ward. So very surprising he didn't pick himself a penalty there. But he's on the soft tyres. Palmer's on the soft tyres as well. So Palmer's really struggling for pace here this evening. 1:37 on his last lap compared to Ward's 1:36 flat. So Ward's got something over Palmer in position 2. We have Curry on the soft tyres as well. So he hasn't been able to phase his tyres in as well as Ward, as his teammate in Ward. So he's struggling for pace as well. 1:37.4 is his last lap. We have Burke on the soft tyres in position 4 on the soft tyres, and we have Lashbrook also on the softs. We have Lamb on the soft tyres. We have the first man on the mediums, Hosking in car 51, 20 seconds behind Ward on those racing medium tyres. So interesting to see what strategy he goes for. We did see behind him that was Lansdale. He pit on his when he was behind Hosking, he was on the medium tyres as well. So it'll be interesting to see what undercut Lansdale's going to get at the end of this, as he is going to go for another lap. Is Hosking in car 51 for WRT. We have Rudzi in position 8 on the soft tyres. We have Crestdale on the mediums. Severi inside the top 10 on racing softs. We have Doc on mediums. We have Lansdale, the first of the pit stoppers, back on the racing softs and going to the end of the Grand Prix with about 13 laps to go. We have Balding off the mediums and onto the softs in 13th place, and then we have Guida in 14th. Also went from mediums to soft tyres on his outlap. As we look back up to the front, the pace is just incredible. We can see the lap times are deteriorating a little bit. And what is very interesting as well, ladies and gentlemen, as we look through with the live data that we're getting from our drivers here, we can see the overtake usage that we can look. If we look down towards the drivers battling each other for the podium positions between Palmer, Curry, Burke, and even Lashbrook, these guys have used either just over half, not even 3/4 overtake usage. Palmer's probably down to about 30%, 35% usage. But look at Ward here. He's just gone over a quarter distance on his overtake usage, and he's still reeling. He's still pulling away. He's still pulling in the margins here. He's really able to eke that gap out. He's doing a fantastic job without using too much overtake, saving that towards the end on his medium stint. And he's still reeling in fastest laps. He's the only man so far that's going to actually get him into the 37s, 36s, and high 35s. But now we see Palmer's actually got himself into the 36s on that previous lap. But Curry's, we've only seen 1:36.8 on lap 3, really struggling. So this is a very rare scene that we see Curry in the Formula Series, just being down here, not on the pace. We thought he had the pace last time out, as we see a car spinning around there. That is Palmer. So Palmer onto the gravel trap in the weeds there, making a big mistake, or going through Ford curve at turn 6 and 7. My goodness, that was a huge mistake by Palmer. losing all that ground, losing all that momentum there, and he's dropped down behind Lashbrook in 5th place, really just struggling to get on the throttle. Is Palmer very struggling to find the pace in car 16, couldn't get anywhere near Ward, and to make it worse, he had his big spin through Ford Curve, and he's now relegated himself down to P5. That promotes Curry and Burke into the podium position, and that is going to be a Robbo Sport on lap 8 of 19, a Robbo Sport 1, 2 and 3. Wow, that is absolutely incredible, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm sure both Robertson and Hardcourt are watching this stream. Your boys are doing a fantastic job in Robbo Sport Racing to occupy an RSR lockout, but we're not even at the finishing point just yet. We've just crossed over halfway, or about to cross over halfway pretty soon, but Ward over Curry and over Burke. Lashbrook now up into P4. As we did see those medium runners jump into the pit lane, we did see, I believe it was Hosking, yes, right there, right behind Lansdale. So Lansdale is just got ahead of Hosking, so the undercut worked very nicely for him. As we see Doc now come into the pit lane getting off those medium tyres, but Lansdale coming under pressure from Hosking right now. Is trying to use his overtake to try and defend from Hosking. Goes to the inside. Hosking's going to go around the outside. Lansdale holds the inside line. Hosking's going to go for a bit of a switchback move, a bit of shallower entry, and just run the car wide. No, he's not going to be able to hold it, but he set himself a good slingshot here to go for a move through the Mercedes-Benz. It looks like he might do it. They're going to go side by side as they exit Mercedes-Benz Arena, and they've not been able to swap positions. So that's some great spatial awareness by our boys here in Formula 2 between Lansdale and Hosking. Great racing between the two drivers to keep that clean through Mercedes-Benz Arena. Lansdale still ahead of Hosking. Great stuff, boys. Well done. So we'll wait to see if anyone decides to blink from the soft runners to go onto the mediums for the last 10. As we did see, not many drivers are opting to stay out long on those mediums. We did see Lansdale, Balding, and Guido, they both came in pretty early. They wanted to get rid of those medium tyres and jump on the soft, so the mediums don't look like to be the best race tyre around this circuit. It's still very cold out there, even though the sun's ablaze. The track is still pretty cold, and maybe the medium tyres are just not working as much compared to those softs. As we can see now, finally Palmer's got himself back into the 1 minute 36s after that 1 minute 44.8, where he went off at the curb at the corners. He's about to approach right now. Look at him, he's using that overtake, so he's really just wanting to get back, and this is where he made the mistake on the previous lap. Really abusing that overtake to try and close up, because it's all about the championship picture, ladies and gentlemen. It's all about where the championship standings will be at the end of this round. We will take away every driver's worst round, subtract that from the total points scored that they have scored in Track Stars Formula 2, and then when we come to the French Grand Prix, we'll have a clear picture of who is where and who will be fighting for what at the conclusion of Formula 2 racing. Guide us down in 14th place, sitting at the back there as we see the Mercedes-Benz grandstand up in the foreground there. So the crowd has really flocked in their numbers this evening for some great racing. We saw some action-packed racing in Formula 3, where we saw two leaders actually losing the lead of both sprint and feature races on the second last lap. It was absolutely incredible scenes that we saw in Formula 3, but so far in Formula 2s, they've been producing some awesome racing, some great battles up and down the field. But what we're seeing so far from Ward is something I actually haven't seen so far in Formula 2. He's actually really putting on a very good masterstroke in putting that and pulling that gap out, and we've known him to be a very strong driver no matter what. And he's never really been able to, he's always been stuck behind Curry and even sometimes behind Burke, but he's now really showing his teammates of what he is capable of. And in Ward's case, if he can hold on for the next 9 laps, that'll be pretty awesome to see victory going towards RoboSport Racing. Again, another trophy going to the RoboSport Racing cabinet, but this time it could potentially have Ward's name on the trophy for first place. We'll find out, as we've seen Burke taking victory at the Pacific Grand Prix at Fuji International Speedway. Curry's taken out 5 victories out of 8 rounds. Could Ward potentially get himself into the winners list in 2023, where RoboSport Racing has been absolutely on fire this season? Mr. Hardcourt, we haven't seen a team podium yet so far in 2023, but we did have one last year in 2022 where, I don't want to brag, but where my team, Mash Buds Racing, actually managed to get themselves a lockout on the podiums at round 2 at Interlagos, where we had Crestdale taking the victory over Dargan and Hosking. So we had the 3 boys from MSI having a lockout on the podium at Interlagos. So potentially we might see the second lockout in Track Stars Formula 2, and it's going to bring out that classic rivalry. It brings out that classic rivalry between MSR and RSR. So we've set the benchmark. You boys need to catch us. So we see Burke looking for an inside move on Curry. Curry gets flustered and Burke's into the wall. Burke's into the tyre barrier. He's picked up some damage there, so that's very unlucky there for Burke. So he just got too much throttle there, trying to make a move on Curry. Curry got flustered, and I think that made Burke extra nervous going around before on the exit of Dunlop Curve. And he's picked up some damage, so thankfully for the boys in Formula 2, it's only light damage, so Burke has to cope with that for another few more seconds before it washes away. There you go, right there, so right before the chicane here. So if he got damage before the chicane, coming into the chicane, that would have been pretty tough. And Burke's really struggling. He's coming into the pit lane right now. His team's called him in just to say, I've had enough, boys, get me off these tyres, because that was absolutely not the plan for Burke. But as we have Palmer go out for another lap here, but he's running very low on his overtake. He hasn't got much left. He's trying to make this in-lap one of his best in-laps to try and get himself back up onto the podium. But we've got to keep our eyes on Lashbrook. He's coming onto the pit straight right now. He could have used a bit of overtake here. There he goes, a bit of overtake. Ward's coming out of the pit lane right now in position 5. Lashbrook is right there in P6. Is he going to get himself any closer? Unfortunately not. 2 seconds is the margin between him and Burke, 1.7 now. So unfortunately, that mistake that Burke made didn't help Lashbrook close the gap, unfortunately, there. So Burke was just going for a bit of a safety call there from RoboSport Racing, just to call him into the pit lane. But I think it was well needed, because picking up damage and running that around for 30 seconds is pretty damn long around this track. So we have Lashbrook running very wide through Ford Curve, but we've got to keep our eyes on Palmer and Ward, as he's now called into the pit lane now. So off those soft tyres and onto the mediums for the final stint here for round 9 of Track Stars Formula 2. So Ward finally comes into the pit lane. Good, comfortable margin there over Palmer. So Palmer's going to look to be coming into the pit lane at the end of this lap. He can technically do one more lap here, which he's doing right now, actually. So he's gone for that extra lap there, because he needs to pit at the end of lap 14 to complete the 5 laps of racing medium tyre stints running to be able to be classified for this race. But Ward is now coming out of the pit lane, sitting just behind Palmer. So as Palmer retakes the lead, but yet to make a pit stop. So Ward is a pit stop ahead of Palmer here. So it just shows the dominance that Ward's been having so far in this race at round 9. So now we finally have Crestdale coming into the pit lane there. So he's actually stayed on those medium tyres for quite some time here. So I'm very surprised he actually didn't come into the pit lane a little bit earlier than before. We have Severi coming through to the start-finish straight. He's yet to make a pit stop as well. So we'll see him come through to the pit lane, transfer through the pit lane pretty soon. Lansdale came in at the end of lap 5, and he's moving himself up towards the front, potentially going to be up into P7 once Severi makes his pit stop. But also we've got to keep our eyes on HPR in the caged Lamb to see where he feeds out in all of this. He was a fair margin back behind the top 5, but does he lose time to Lansdale at the end of the pit stop phase? We'll find out very soon. As Palmer's coming through, he's actually, well, I guess in a way, worn softs compared to fresh mediums, you do gain a heap of time here. And Palmer's actually just going in for that fast in lap there. You can see no more overtake left on Palmer's car. Finally comes into the pit lane to change those softs to mediums. And now he comes into the pit lane. 47% fuel. Obviously no fueling in a Formula 2 in any Formula racing. There is no fuel pit stops here. So they just throw on a set of wheels and they throw on a set of boots, fresh set of boots, and off they go. We have Curry now taking back the lead. 12.7 seconds over Curry, so he's actually increased that a little bit on the exit of the pit lane. But Palmer now coming out to P3, and he's made the overcut work. So that overcut has helped him massively, squarely on the exit of turn 1, and he's actually jumped Burke. So he's done a fantastic job to jump him in the pit stop. So Burke came in nice and early. He was just ahead of Palmer before his pit stop because he made a mistake at the exit of Dunlop Curve. But he's now 1.3 behind Palmer with fresh medium tyres, with warmer medium tyres compared to Palmer's fresh tyres. He might close the gap in just that ever so slightly, but also keep in mind, Palmer has no overtake left at all. So Palmer's going to be really struggling on the back foot. He's going to have to go very defensive to try and hold P3 down. If he manages to pick up P3 at the end of that, making a mistake through forward curve, that'll be a fantastic result. But we have Burke coming back, and he's going to be looking to get that position back. He wants it to make an RSR 1, 2, 3. The pressure from the team bosses are watching, and they want their drivers to occupy that podium spot here at Nürburgring. We have to give out some honourable mention shout out there to Lashbrook in P5 in car 11, doing a fantastic job. It'll be his first P5. You can hold this for the next 4 laps. And that'll also make him main series eligible. So that'll be another driver ready to go up into the main series if he finishes in P5. We have Lamb in position 6, just coming out of the pit lane. He's 10.7 ahead of Lansdale. So I thought the gap was going to be a little bit closer than that. But here's an interesting fact here. He hasn't even used any touch of overtake at all. So you've got to give props to HPR. He's done a fantastic job to not touch the overtake. He's got a full tank of overtake to use, compared to Lashbrook, who hasn't got much at all. So Lamb, we'll keep an eye on this battle as we draw to the conclusion of this race. We'll see if Lamb can actually close up to Lashbrook with all of that overtake he's got left. I'm actually very surprised to why he left it so late. I definitely would have been using that on my soft tyre stint for sure. Hey, I'm not in the driver's seat. I'm here in the commentator box, nice and rugged up for this evening. Oh, as we see a little bit of lag there from Lansdale's side of things, side of the netcode. Currently sitting in position 7 as we run down through the grid. We have Hosking inside the top 8 after now making return back to Track Stars Formula 2. So sitting nicely in 8th place for car 51. We have Crestdale on those soft tyres in position 9. Very surprised he came in very late from those, getting off those medium tyres and now putting on the softs for a short sprint. So very interesting strategy he's picking up there. We have Rudzi in 10th place with Doc in 11th, Severi 12th, Balding 13th, setting his personal best with a 1 minute 38.9. A bit of a fair distance behind his teammate in Ward, who set the fastest lap on his soft tyres stint to a 1 minute 35.348. And then unfortunately Guida sitting in 14th and last place. Not the best race he's had in Track Stars Formula 2, but we'll hope to see him up towards the pointy end for the final round. But as we look back towards the front, Ward has actually lost a bit of time to Curry. So Curry's actually finding a little bit more pace on his mediums compared to his soft tyre running. As we can see the lap difference there, we've got a 1 minute 37.7 for Curry versus a 1 minute 37.4, but looks like Ward's actually made a few mistakes in those last couple of laps, in the laps prior. 1 minute 42 versus 1 minute 44. But we also have as well Curry getting himself some good pace in this late stint of the race. So what we'll do now, ladies and gentlemen, as we're about to approach the end of the Grand Prix, let's ride on board with car 7 in the hands of Ward for Royal Sport Racing. In car 7, leading the way, 11.4 seconds ahead of his teammate in Mitch Curry. So sit back and relax and enjoy the lap.